Before you scroll, answer this. Why does it feel like something heavy suddenly shifted around you these past days? Because it did. If this message is on your screen right now, it's because you're being pushed into a moment you weren't meant to miss. Right after the supermoon, many chosen ones started noticing a strange change in their spirit, old struggles loosening, emotions rising, and a quiet release happening without warning. If you've been sensing that too, you're not imagining anything. There's a reason your heart feels different, your mind feels clearer, and situations you couldn't break free from are suddenly losing power over you. In this video, we will talk about the 5 signs that God is clearing out what you couldn't release before. These signs show up subtly but strongly through unexpected peace, shifts in your relationships, a sudden emotional lift, or a quiet nudge pushing you toward a new direction. Stay with me because understanding these signs will help you recognize why this moment is happening now and what it's preparing you for. The post-supermoon energy is moving things in your favor, and this time, you're ready for it. Sudden emotional release often shows up when your spirit is finally allowed to let go of weight you were never meant to carry into the next phase of your life. It might come out of nowhere, your chest loosens, your mind feels lighter, or you find yourself tearing up without any specific trigger. This isn't weakness or confusion. It's a sign that something inside you is finally unclenching after being tense for far too long. When God removes a burden, your body usually reacts before your mind fully understands what happened. You might notice moments where you feel relief without knowing why. Maybe a situation that used to drain you suddenly doesn't affect you the same way. Maybe a memory that once strung feels strangely distant now. These shifts are indicators that what held power over you is losing its grip. Your emotions respond by releasing the last bits of that old energy. It's like the soul taking a deep breath after being cramped in a tight corner. This kind of release is important because it confirms that you're no longer fighting the same internal battles. It shows that God is clearing your path from within first. When your emotions lighten, it becomes easier to welcome new opportunities, new clarity, and new direction without being weighed down by what used to hold you back. Feeling lighter without explanation is one of the clearest signs that a spiritual release is taking place. It often shows up in subtle ways. Your mind feels less crowded, your chest feels more open, or your usual worries seem quieter than before. It's the kind of shift you can't logically track, yet you can't ignore. When God removes something from your path, the first place you feel it is inside your own energy. That lightness is your spirit adjusting to the space that used to be filled with stress, fear, or emotional tension. You may notice you're waking up with more mental clarity, or that tasks you normally overthink suddenly feel simple. Even your physical posture can change, you breathe easier, your shoulders relax, and your body stops holding the pressure it used to store. This isn't randomness, it's alignment. When something heavy leaves your life, whether a habit, a thought pattern, or an emotional burden, you naturally experience a shift that feels like freedom. This lightness matters because it's the early confirmation that your environment and spirit are moving into a new season. You aren't being pushed to force anything or carry what's not meant for you anymore. Instead, you're being prepared to move forward with a calmer mind and a stronger sense of direction. Old burdens dissolving is one of the most powerful signs that a new chapter is opening for you. These burdens might not have been obvious. They could have been long-standing worries, memories that weighed you down, or responsibilities you carried out of habit rather than purpose. When they begin to dissolve, it often feels like certain thoughts no longer hold the same emotional pull, or situations that once consumed your energy simply stop affecting you the same way. This shift doesn't require effort. It happens quietly, almost gently, because God is removing what your spirit can no longer carry. You may find that issues you used to stress about now feel strangely distant. Conversations that once left you drained no longer bother you. Even patterns of self-doubt or overthinking begin to fade without you trying to fix them. This happens because the spiritual pressure that kept those burdens alive is being lifted. When the weight starts to fall off, your mind naturally becomes clearer and your heart feels less tangled. This dissolving of old burdens is important because it frees up emotional and spiritual space for what's meant to enter next. You're no longer stuck in the same loops or controlled by the same fears. Instead, you gain a stable sense of inner balance that allows you to step into new opportunities without dragging yesterday's heaviness into tomorrow. God removing unseen spiritual weight often shows up long before you fully understand what's shifting. These are the burdens you couldn't name, explain, or even put into words, yet you felt them every day. They showed up as heaviness in your mind, confusion in your decisions, or a constant emotional pressure you couldn't trace back to a single cause. When this unseen weight begins to lift, it creates a quiet but noticeable change in how you move, think, and respond to life. You may notice you're no longer overreacting to things that used to trigger you. Thoughts that once spiraled into anxiety now stop before they get too far. Situations that used to intimidate you suddenly feel manageable. This shift isn't random. It's the result of God clearing your spirit from influences, attachments, or emotional residue that you didn't have the strength to release on your own. It's a form of protection, removing what was draining you from the inside. As this weight lifts, you begin to recognize your own strength again. Decisions feel easier. Your intuition becomes sharper. You find yourself thinking more clearly and responding with calm instead of panic. This is how God prepares you for your next season, by clearing the internal blocks so you can finally move forward without invisible forces slowing you down. Increased clarity in decisions is one of the strongest indicators that the spiritual atmosphere around you has shifted. When God begins releasing what held you back, the mental fog you carried for months or even years starts to fade. Choices that once felt overwhelming suddenly become straightforward. You're no longer torn between options or second-guessing every step. Instead, your thoughts feel more organized, your judgment feels sharper, and you can sense the direction that aligns with your peace. This clarity doesn't come from overthinking, it comes from relief. When emotional and spiritual pressure lifts, your mind finally has room to process things honestly. You might notice that solutions appear faster, or you feel certain about decisions you avoided before. Even simple daily choices become easier because you're not wrestling with internal resistance anymore. You're able to look at situations without the noise of fear, doubt, or other people's expectations clouding your perception. This shift in clarity is important because it signals that your path is opening. You're not meant to stay stuck in confusion forever. When God clears what clouded your thoughts, He also reveals the next right steps, steps that feel natural, aligned, and peaceful. This clarity helps you move forward with confidence, trusting that you're finally being guided without old blocks pulling you backward. Mental fog lifting is a powerful sign that your spirit is aligning with a clearer path. You may notice your thoughts feel smoother, your focus returns, and everyday decisions stop feeling heavy or confusing. This shift isn't something you force, it happens naturally when the spiritual pressure around you loosens. The fog you carried wasn't just stress, it was a buildup of old emotions, unresolved situations, and energy that no longer matched who you're becoming. When that begins to clear, your mind finally gets space to breathe. You might find yourself understanding things you couldn't make sense of before. Patterns become obvious. Red flags you once ignored now stand out clearly. Even your conversations feel more grounded because your mind isn't jumping between worry and distraction. This clarity also affects how you react to challenges. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you feel calm and capable, as if an invisible weight has been removed from your thinking. This lifting of mental fog is important because it prepares you for decisions you couldn't make earlier. God clears your mind before He shifts your path. When your thoughts become clearer, you're able to recognize blessings faster, avoid unnecessary battles, and follow the direction that brings real peace. It's a sign that your mind and spirit are finally in harmony again. Unexpected peace in stressful situations is often the first sign that a deeper spiritual shift has taken place. You may find yourself responding differently to issues that once overwhelmed you. Instead of panic, you feel calm. Instead of tension, you feel grounded. That peace isn't coming from the situation itself, it's coming from the release happening within you. When God removes what once drained your spirit, you stop carrying the emotional weight that made everything feel heavier than it really was. You might notice moments where you're in the middle of a challenge, yet your heart stays steady. Other people may even comment that you seem unusually calm or collected. This isn't ignoring your problems, it's proof that your inner world is no longer controlled by them. You're experiencing the kind of peace that shows up when old fears lose their grip, and God strengthens your ability to face life with clarity rather than anxiety. This unexpected peace matters because it shows you've shifted into a different spiritual frequency. The chaos around you hasn't changed, but your reaction to it has transformed. That's how you know the release is real. You're not carrying the same emotional load, so the world can't shake you the way it used to. This peace becomes your confirmation that you're moving into a stronger, calmer, and more aligned season of your life. Things that once felt stuck now loosening is a clear sign that the spiritual resistance around you is breaking. You may notice old problems that seemed impossible to fix suddenly begin to shift. Doors that stayed closed for months start to open a little. Even situations that were dragging on with no movement begin showing signs of progress. This isn't coincidence. It's a sign that whatever was blocking you is losing its strength, and your path is finally clearing. You might feel this shift in unexpected ways. A conversation you've been avoiding becomes easier. A plan that kept falling apart starts coming together. A habit you couldn't break feels less powerful over you. Even your thoughts feel less tangled because the pressure that kept everything tight is lifting. These small changes are important because they show that the spiritual atmosphere around you is changing before the physical world catches up. This loosening effect matters because it reveals that you're stepping out of a season of stagnation. You're not meant to stay stuck in the same cycle forever. When God begins releasing what held you back, you'll notice movement, even if it's small at first. It's the early confirmation that your life is shifting toward progress, and the breakthroughs you've been waiting for are finally starting to breathe. Cycles breaking easily is a powerful sign that your spirit is no longer tied to patterns that once controlled you. These cycles can be emotional, mental, or behavioral, anything that kept repeating even when you tried to move forward. When they start breaking with less effort, it's because the spiritual force that held them in place has weakened. You're no longer battling the same internal resistance, so change begins to feel more natural instead of exhausting. You may notice you're not reacting the same way to familiar triggers. The arguments you used to fall into don't pull you in anymore. The habits you once struggled to stop suddenly feel easier to walk away from. Even your thought patterns shift. You're not looping back to the same fears or doubts. This happens because God has already done the deeper work inside you, and now your outer behavior is catching up to that inner transformation. This break in cycles matters because it signals real growth, not temporary motivation. You're stepping out of old versions of yourself and into a more aligned way of living. When cycles lose their power, you gain momentum. You begin moving forward without being dragged back into the same emotional routines. It's confirmation that you're entering a new season with a stronger spirit and a clearer path ahead. Old habits becoming easier to let go of is a strong indicator that your spirit is finally gaining control over patterns that once felt impossible to break. These habits might have been tied to comfort, fear, stress, or old versions of you that no longer match who you're becoming. When a spiritual release happens, the emotional attachment behind those habits begins to fade. What used to feel tempting or automatic suddenly feels unnecessary, heavy, or simply out of place in your life. You may notice that behaviors you tried to change for years now feel easier to walk away from. Maybe you're no longer drawn to certain conversations, environments, or routines that once felt familiar but draining. Even unhealthy responses, like overthinking, people-pleasing, or reacting out of fear, start to lose their hold on you. This shift happens because the root of the habit, the emotional pressure that fed it, is dissolving. You're not resisting it as much because the habit no longer feels like part of your identity. This release matters because it frees you from cycles that kept your growth limited. When habits lose their emotional pull, you step into your life with more clarity, discipline, and self-respect. It becomes easier to choose what aligns with your peace rather than what comforts your past. This is a sign that you're moving into a season where your actions match your purpose, not your old wounds. Relationships shifting naturally is a sign that your inner world is changing faster than the people around you. When God begins releasing what you couldn't let go of before, certain connections start to adjust on their own. Some people may drift away without conflict, while others suddenly feel closer or more aligned with your energy. These shifts aren't random, they reflect the new version of you that's forming. As your spirit rises, you no longer match the frequency of every environment or relationship you were once tied to. You might notice you're less interested in conversations that drain you or connections built on old patterns. People who once had a strong influence over your emotions may no longer affect you the same way. At the same time, uplifting or peaceful connections may start standing out more clearly. This happens because your spirit is being redirected toward what supports your growth, not what slows you down. These changes matter because relationships often reflect your spiritual season. When God clears your path, He also adjusts the people on it. Some are meant to stay, some are meant to step back, and some are meant to walk with you in the new chapter ahead. These shifts protect your peace, strengthen your discernment, and make room for connections that match where you're heading, not where you've been. Certain doors closing suddenly can feel confusing at first, but it's often a sign that divine alignment is taking place. These closures aren't failures or punishments, they're protection. When a door shuts quickly and without warning, it usually means that the path behind it is no longer connected to your growth. God closes doors you wouldn't close yourself, especially when your heart is still attached to something your spirit has already outgrown. What seems abrupt on the outside is actually preparation on the inside. You may notice that opportunities fade, conversations end, or plans no longer feel supported. People who once showed interest may suddenly go quiet. Situations that looked promising begin to lose momentum. Instead of forcing things to stay open, you naturally feel a pull to step back. This shift happens because the energetic connection between you and that path is breaking, even if the reason isn't obvious yet. When God removes something, it's because it would have held you back later. These sudden closures matter because they redirect you toward the places where your presence is truly meant to grow. Closed doors create space for clarity, peace, and new opportunities that match who you're becoming. When one door ends unexpectedly, it often means another is getting ready to open, one that aligns with your next season instead of keeping you tied to your past. New opportunities aligning smoothly is a sign that your path is being guided with greater clarity and support. These opportunities may appear in ways that feel almost effortless. Things fall into place without the usual struggle, timing works out perfectly, or unexpected chances come your way just when you need them. This kind of alignment isn't luck. It's a result of God clearing what once blocked your progress. When the spiritual resistance lifts, the right opportunities finally have room to reach you. You might notice that ideas flow easily, people show up at the perfect moment, or situations open up in ways that feel aligned with your growth. Even small things, like receiving the information you were waiting for or getting a sudden green light on something delayed, begin to line up with surprising ease. The pressure that once surrounded your plans starts to dissolve, and the direction forward becomes clearer. This shift is a sign that you're stepping into a season where your efforts are supported rather than resisted. This smooth alignment matters because it shows you're no longer pushing against closed paths. Instead, you're moving with the current of where you're meant to be. When opportunities begin fitting into place naturally, it's confirmation that you're walking in divine timing. You're being positioned for progress, and the doors that open now are meant to guide you into your next level with confidence and peace. Feeling pulled toward a new direction is one of the clearest signs that a deeper shift is happening within you. It often starts quietly, an inner nudge, a change in interest, or a subtle discomfort with the things that once felt normal. You may not fully understand why, but something in your spirit begins to lean toward a different path, a new goal, or a fresh environment. This pull doesn't feel forced, it feels natural, like your inner compass is turning on its own. When God is guiding you forward, your spirit senses the shift before your mind can explain it. You might notice you're no longer excited about what used to motivate you. Certain habits, routines, or circles begin to feel too small. At the same time, you feel a growing curiosity or calm attraction to something new, whether it's a change in your work, your relationships, your priorities, or your personal growth. This is your spirit responding to a direction that's aligned with your next season. You're not losing interest, you're evolving. This pull matters because it means you're being prepared for something beyond your current surroundings. You're not being pushed, you're being guided. When you feel drawn toward a new direction, it's often the first sign that the road ahead is opening and that your spirit is ready for a level of purpose, peace, and alignment you couldn't step into before. Strong intuition or inner nudges becoming more noticeable is a sign that your spiritual senses are waking up in a new way. You may find yourself feeling guided without needing long explanations. A quiet yes or no rises inside you, and it feels clearer than anything you could reason out. This isn't random. It's the result of inner noise fading and your connection with divine guidance becoming stronger. When God removes old blockages, your intuition gains room to speak more boldly and more accurately. You might experience moments where you sense something before it happens, or you feel drawn towards certain choices without knowing why. There may be a sudden urge to pause, move forward, step back, or change direction. These nudges often come with a calm certainty, not fear or pressure. It feels like your spirit already knows the truth, and your mind is simply catching up. This is one of the most powerful signs of alignment, because intuitive clarity only increases when you're moving away from what drains you and toward what strengthens you. This rise in intuition matters because it helps you navigate your next chapter with confidence. You're no longer relying only on logic or outside opinions. You're guided from within, supported by a deeper spiritual awareness that wasn't accessible before. This inner guidance becomes your compass, helping you recognize the right opportunities. Avoid unnecessary battles and move through December with a sharper sense of purpose and peace. Loss of interest in old patterns is a sign that your inner world is shifting far faster than the life around you. These patterns may have been habits, routines, mindsets, or emotional reactions you once repeated without thinking. Suddenly, they no longer feel satisfying or necessary. You're not forcing yourself to let them go, you simply feel disconnected from them. This isn't boredom or laziness, it's growth. When God removes what no longer serves you, your spirit stops feeding the behaviors tied to your past. You might notice you no longer enjoy conversations filled with drama, environments that drain you, or behaviors that once felt comforting but empty. Even old coping mechanisms start feeling out of place. You may catch yourself thinking, "Why does this no longer feel like me?" That question alone shows how much you've evolved. Your spirit is no longer aligned with the version of you that created those patterns in the first place. This shift matters because it clears the way for new habits, healthier connections, and stronger boundaries to form naturally. You're not fighting against your past, you're outgrowing it. When old patterns lose their emotional pull, you're able to step into your next season with more intention and less attachment. This is one of the strongest signs that you're being prepared for a higher level of alignment, clarity, and peace. Renewed motivation and energy often show up right when you least expect them. After a long period of feeling drained, unproductive, or emotionally stuck, you suddenly feel a spark returning. This isn't random inspiration. It's a sign that the heaviness that once held you down has been lifted. When God releases what your spirit was silently wrestling with, your energy naturally rises because you're no longer fighting an invisible battle. What felt impossible yesterday starts to feel doable today. You may notice yourself waking up with a clearer mind, finding excitement in plans you once avoided, or feeling eager to take steps you've been postponing. Even small tasks feel lighter because the emotional weight behind them is gone. This renewed energy also affects your confidence. You begin to believe in your ability to move forward, not because circumstances changed instantly, but because you feel different inside. Your spirit finally has room to breathe and focus again. This shift matters because motivation is often the first physical sign that your spirit has been restored. You're stepping into a season where action feels natural, progress feels possible, and your goals feel closer than before. It's confirmation that you're no longer operating from survival mode. You're rising into a chapter fueled by clarity, strength, and divine support. God separating you from distractions is one of the clearest signs that you're being positioned for a higher level. These distractions aren't always loud or dramatic. They can be subtle things that quietly drain your energy, steal your focus, or keep you emotionally tied to places you've outgrown. When this separation begins, you'll notice yourself losing interest in behaviors, conversations, or environments that once pulled you off your path. It's not that you're isolating yourself. It's that your spirit no longer resonates with anything that slows your growth. You may find yourself withdrawing from people who bring chaos, stepping back from routines that waste your time, or feeling uncomfortable in spaces that once felt familiar. Even digital distractions, endless scrolling, meaningless conversations, or old habits of avoidance begin to lose their grip on you. This shift isn't forced. It feels natural, almost automatic, because God is protecting your energy from anything that could delay the breakthroughs forming around you. This separation matters because clarity requires space. When distractions fall away, you can finally hear your intuition more clearly, focus on the things that truly matter, and move toward the opportunities aligned with your purpose. God removes what competes for your attention so you can give your energy to what will elevate your life. It's a sign you're stepping into a more focused, peaceful, and purposeful season. Signs of divine timing accelerating often appear when the spiritual atmosphere around you is shifting faster than your circumstances can keep up. You may notice events aligning suddenly, solutions appearing quickly, or long-delayed changes happening with surprising ease. This acceleration isn't random. It's a sign that God is nudging your life into a season where everything begins moving with purpose. What once dragged on now speeds up because the blockages that slowed you have been removed. You might experience moments where opportunities arrive back-to-back, or you receive clarity at the exact moment you need it. Delays turn into progress, confusion turns into direction, and situations you thought were finished suddenly revive with new energy. Even simple things, like meeting the right person at the right time or receiving unexpected support, begin to fit together like pieces of a larger plan. It's as if life shifts gears without warning, and everything starts happening at once. This acceleration matters because it's confirmation that your patience wasn't wasted. You were being prepared for a season where things finally move in your favor. When divine timing speeds up, it means you're aligned, your path is clearing, and God is orchestrating opportunities that would have been impossible in the past. It's a sign that your next chapter isn't just approaching, it's already unfolding. Feeling like your new chapter has already started is one of the strongest confirmations that a deep internal shift has taken place. This feeling doesn't wait for dramatic changes on the outside. You simply wake up with a quiet certainty that things are different now. Your mindset, your emotions, and even your expectations begin to shift toward what's ahead rather than what's behind you. It's a subtle but powerful sense that life is moving, even if you can't see every step yet. You may notice yourself thinking about the future with more confidence than fear. The situations that once held you back no longer feel as important. You look at your life with fresh eyes, feeling more grounded, more hopeful, and more aware of what you deserve. Even your daily choices reflect this shift. You're more intentional, more selective, and more aligned with your peace. This sense matters because it shows that your spirit has already stepped into the next phase, even if your physical reality is catching up. It's God's way of preparing your heart before the external blessings arrive. When you feel this inner shift, it means you're ready. You're not waiting for your new chapter anymore, you're already living in the energy of it. As you move through this post-supermoon energy, remember that none of these shifts are random. Every release, every moment of clarity, every sudden change in your spirit is getting you toward a chapter that you were always meant to reach. God is removing the weight you couldn't carry, clearing the path you couldn't see, and preparing you for alignment you didn't know was this close. You're stepping into a season where what once felt impossible is finally within reach. Here on Cosmic Shift, I want you to know this. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, and you are not stuck. You're being moved quietly, gently, and powerfully into a space where growth, peace, and breakthrough flow more easily than before. Trust the signs, trust your inner shift, and trust the timing that's shaping your next level. Before you go, comment this affirmation below so you speak it into your reality. I am ready for the blessings aligned with my new chapter. If any of these signs resonated with you today, share your experience in the comments. Your next step begins the moment you acknowledge the transformation happening within you. Keep moving forward, your breakthrough is already rising.